Welcome to On Air. I'm your host, Marcus Vadas. We're here at PMG, baby, Postmodern Group Studios, Irvine, California, and a West Side for Jim because he loves it. Today we got a killer guest. His name is Jeff Kelley, and he started Sanuk Footwear. And for all of you guys who are starting your own apparel company, you know how tough this business can be. And Jeff has risen to the top, and we're going to find out more about his story. So let's dive in and meet Mr. Kelley. Jeff, thanks for coming down, man.
No problem, Marcus.
Appreciate you making up the trip all the way from Cardiff. So give me the lowdown on Sanuk. I love the footwear. I have 2 pairs myself. They are probably one of the most comfortable shoes I've ever owned. But it's not really a shoe, is it?
No, it's a sandal.
So tell me, how did it all start?
With Sanuk, I started it basically in my shed. I put a computer in there, and I had a little bit of money. I had some equity in my house, and I had the support of my wife. Very, very important.
Yeah,
and
that's huge.
Built it up as far as I could build it until I got to that crossroad that so many entrepreneurs hit. Geez, I'm out of money. What am I going to do? I'm going to sell a piece, move to this new building for another year, hit the wall again, do it again. So I chose the licensing route, and I hooked up with a company here in Irvine called C&C, which is owned by Dak Clark and Paul Carr, and they were providing the back end for me and the financing. And so they have the license for the US, Canada, and Europe. And then myself and the partner that I have in Cardiff maintain the rest of the world. So we deal with all of those guys independently, and then C&C deals with the Canada, Europe, US. But I still oversee all of the design, the marketing, and work on a daily basis with the crew here in the U.S.
That's cool. So what was the first footwear that you got out there, and who was your first buyer for that?
I would say that the For Real really put us on the map, which was this green carpet sandal. But it has never been, you know, a huge breadwinner for anybody. It's just been more of a vibe thing. Mm-hmm. And Fred Siegel was one of the first accounts that picked it up. And when they picked it up,
not a bad account to have.
No, and those guys have been great. They've supported me. Patty and Stanley, you know, my hat's off to them every year. Have supported me.
Yeah.
So I owe them a lot. And because of that, you know, we were sort of under a microscope, and then Barney's, and you know, now we're in Kitson's and a number of other.
So then, what came next after this?
Well, I think that, you know, we had some basics and some other stuff that we were putting out there, but the next big deal hit when I invented this wire sandal, which we patented. The girls' version, which was the big popular one called the Voodoo, and this happened when I was over at the factory. It was raining. I had flip-flops on, just got off the airplane, jumped in a cab, but I stepped in a puddle before I got in the cab. And then this was the mat in the back seat. So I went to wipe my feet off on this, and I went, wow, that feels great. So I talked the cab driver into selling me these mats, and I took them to the factory, die cut them up, put straps on.
You took the mats right out of the taxi cab?
Out of the taxi cab, yeah.
Brilliant.
And slapped it onto a footbed, and then this became, you know, a huge home run.
Now you're selling this at Fred Siegel as well?
Yes, and then, but that became mainstream. You know, there was a lot of the accounts that we were trying to bust down. Gadzooks in Texas, which is no longer around, was probably most responsible for this thing getting the volume that it got, because they were nationwide.
So what came next?
Absolutely. Well, we you know, branch kept growing within the surf industry. You know, we had Donovan Frankenreiter on the program, Shane Dorian.
How did you get Donovan in on this?
I can't even remember when I met Donovan, but I've known him forever. You know, he's a local guy from down the street here in San Juan. And when I first picked him up, I really liked his vibe. Sanuk wasn't so much about the competitive side of surfing as much as it was just the more, you know, like Stussy said, not for the pros, but for the bros.
So you got the Donovan. Tell me about the Donovan mustache here.
Donovan Frankenreiter, the most persistent person on earth, called me every day for like 3 months asking me to do this. I finally said, okay, I give up, I'll do it. So I sourced these things for him, and he was right. These have been the biggest hit ever. We bring them in 20,000 at a time. No, we just give them out.
Give them out.
The first time we got them in, Donovan had a concert. We showed up at the concert, and I gave a bunch to people to just walk through and hand out to the audience. I was backstage looking out at the audience. It was the coolest thing ever. Everybody was wearing a Donovan mustache, including little kids that were up on their parents' shoulders in the audience, and the vibe was just all time. So this has become now a staple with Sanuk.
That's great, the Donovan mustache. Right on. Well, you guys got a lot of brands. Tell me about the Sidewalk Surfer, because that has got to be, was that like your #1 seller as a Sidewalk Surfer?
The Sidewalk Surfer started when I was jogging the stairs in Cardiff, the beach right in front of the office, in the morning in my New Balance shoes. And then later that afternoon, went for a surf. When I ran back up the same stairs barefoot, I noticed a completely different range of motion. And I said, there's something to this. And sandals have that same motion because unlike shoes, there's no stitch down boards, so they're much more flexible. I went to the factory a couple weeks later, and I took one of our most comfortable sandal footbeds on the Lazy Boy, and I die-cutted slots in it, just like you do on a normal flip-flop.
Okay.
Made a deconstructed upper, pulled the tabs through, bent them over, glued them over, threw it together just like a flip-flop. So I put the thing together, and on the way home, stopped in Hong Kong for a day, spent all day walking around in these. My back felt better than it ever felt walking that much, and I knew straight away, home run. So that was the way that the thing got started. You know, that has taken the brand from being mostly just a sandal brand to really now a global footwear brand with, you know, opportunities to expand in all kinds of different directions using this, what we call walking natural technology.
Yeah. I've noticed, you know, I have not seen one television ad, I've not seen one radio ad. How do you guys market yourselves out there? I mean, obviously social media is a big thing for you. What are some of the things that you guys are doing to market your brand?
We do a lot of print. We advertise in Surfer, Surfing, Trans World. We do Outside magazine with a combination of Donovan Rostovich and then Chris Sharma, Randy Levitt, Chris Lindner, our climbers. We do Teen Vogue on the girls' side of things.
Yeah.
We have a PR agency that gets us heaps of press. We've had, you know, a number of celebrities show up wearing the gear, and then that's been published on and on, so that's been pretty cool. And then we've hired this guy, Braun Huisenstam, who was a professional surfer. His dad was in the surf industry, you know, started Newport Surf and Sport, and Braun has done a fantastic job of getting us on the Facebook, the Twitter. You know, we've got a back-end crew now that's doing all of our own videoing and stories and things like that. So
what's next for Sanuk? What do you got coming down the line?
Right now we're launching a new item called a tube flop, which is basically a flip-flop connected to a tube sock.
And this is for the ladies?
This is for the ladies. Looks extremely sexy on. This idea hit me. I was cruising in Hong Kong, which is probably one of the most fashionable cities on the planet.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing all these women in their 20 to 30-year-old range wearing these high stockings, stirrup bottoms, and platform shoes. And it's extremely sexy. And I'm thinking, how do I bring that look home to the beach customer?
Yeah.
You know, and being a product of the 70s, you know, I used to wear tube socks and skateboard and, you know, that sort of thing. So just merged that 70s trend with what was starting to happen now in the high socks and allow the tube flop.
So this is not out yet?
It is out in 200 stores right now.
In 200
and it
stores.
is launching to the rest of the country January.
Jeff, thanks so much for coming down, man.
Thanks, Marcus. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome story, awesome products. To find out more about Sanuk, look at the URL at the bottom of the screen, sanuk.com. You can see some of their cool ads. You can see Donovan. So thanks for click and play. We will see you next week. I'm Marcus Vadas with Jeff Kelley, and we are out of here.